In 2006, Angels shortstop Orlando Cabrera achieved something that only two other players in baseball history have ever achieved. What he did that year had not been done since the 1940s and hasn't been replicated since. The exact achievement Cabrera accomplished and how he did it is nothing short of a miracle. Before I discuss what Orlando Cabrera did in 2006, I need to explain who he is and his baseball career. Cabrera made his major league debut for the Montreal Expos in 1997 and played in the major leagues from 1997 until 2011. He played mostly for the Expos, but also played for many other teams, most notably the Angels. You might remember Cabrera as the player who committed the final out in David Cohn's perfect game. A shortstop, Cabrera was one of the better defensive players during his time in the big leagues. Among all position players who played during Cabrera's time in baseball, he ranks in the top 30 in D-WAR. He also has a large number of counting stats as a fielder. He was one of the most productive shortstops of the 2000s. As a hitter, he was not very good. A career 707 OPS and 84 adjusted OPS across 8,200 plate appearances, he also recorded only one season with an adjusted OPS over 100. His career slash line is .272 with a .317 on base and a .390 slugging. For the era he played in, that's near the bottom of the leaderboard. From 1997 to 2011, there were 325 players with at least 3,000 plate appearances, and Cabrera is near the bottom 10% in adjusted OPS. One of the worst hitters of his time, but it gets worse. There are 286 players in baseball history with at least 8,000 career plate appearances, and Cabrera is near the bottom of that list in adjusted OPS, ranking 275th out of 286. He was a poor hitter, but held tremendous value with his fielding ability and his durability, as he's third among all players in games played from 2000 to 2009. Cabrera was a durable, terrific fielding shortstop, but was one of the worst hitters of his era. His value as a baseball player was on the field, not at the plate, and that's what makes his 2006 achievement even more improbable. You see, Orlando Cabrera is one of 3 players in baseball history to achieve an on-base streak of at least 63 games. From April 25th to July 6th, Cabrera played in 63 games and got on base in all 63 via either a hit, walk, or hit by pitch. The only other players with an equal or longer on-base streak were Joe DiMaggio and Ted Williams. Cabrera achieved a feat that almost all of the greatest hitters of all time never achieved, and was only matched by 2 hitting legends. For comparison, Barry Bonds' longest on-base streak was 58. Babe Ruth, who was second all-time in on-base percentage, maxed out at 51. Other baseball legends got close, but Cabrera stands out on top of almost everyone in baseball history. The 2 aforementioned players who outdid Cabrera were Ted Williams, who has the highest on-base percentage in baseball history, and the other Joe DiMaggio, the man who holds the record for longest hitting streak. Both of those 2 are amongst the greatest hitters of all time, and many people would agree that Ted Williams is the greatest hitter of all time. Cabrera was not a hitting legend, he was not a great hitter, he wasn't even average. He was a below average hitter who put together one of the greatest hitting achievements in baseball history. That is what makes this streak unbelievable. Achieving such a long on-base streak takes a lot of skill and discipline, but also takes a lot of luck. It's mind-boggling that someone as bad as a hitter that Cabrera was produced a hitting phenomenon. It's not as if Cabrera had a career year in 2006. That season, he hit .282 with a .335 on base and a .404 slugging for a .738 OPS, which equates to a 91 adjusted OPS, aka below average. A below average hitter in the middle of a below average season, in the middle of a below average hitting career, put together one of the longest on-base streaks in baseball history. But that's baseball. You never know what's going to happen. At any given moment, anyone has the potential to put together a historic event, no matter how low the odds are against him. Oh, there's more to this. It's true. In baseball, any player has the potential to achieve a historic event no matter how much they're underperforming. Dan Uggla started one of the longest hitting streaks in baseball history at a time he was batting 173. Philip Humber threw a perfect game despite a career 5.31 ERA, 81 adjusted ERA, and only 16 career wins. Scooter Gennett had 38 career home runs when he tied a major league record with 4 home runs in a single game. Sure, Cabrera was a poor hitter who achieved a phenomenal hitting achievement, but it's how he did it that makes the streak even more improbable than it already is. During his 63-game on-base streak, Cabrera slashed .303 with a .372 on base and .418 slugging. For an on-base streak that long, those hitting stats are terrible. A .372 on base is terrific, but to achieve a 63-game on-base streak with that seems impossible. Let me explain. When looking at the leaderboard for longest on-base streaks, naturally the players near the top had drastically high on-base percentages during their streaks. This is expected. The longer an on-base streak is, the more times a player gets on base, the higher his on-base percentage rises. The higher an on-base streak climbs, the more unlikely it is to maintain it, so on-base percentage becomes inflated. Since these players were on long hot streaks, they were more likely to get on base multiple times, continuing to inflate their on-base percentage past what's maintainable. Think about it like this. In 2021, David Fletcher had the longest hitting streak of any player that season when he hit safely in 26 consecutive games. During his hitting streak, Fletcher hit .454. That batting average is way beyond unsustainable. The last time an MLB player hit .454 or higher in a season is never. No player has ever had a batting average that high in a single season in MLB history. Not to mention, Fletcher's career batting average entering 2021 was .292. A .454 batting average is unsustainable for a full season, and the only reason Fletcher was able to hit at that rate was because it came in a small sample size. The longer the hitting streak would have gone, the harder and harder it would have been to maintain that high of a batting average. Same logic applies to an on-base streak. On-base percentage is inflated during a streak because it comes in a small sample size and is drastically higher compared to the actual on-base percentage a player had during the season. At least, this is how it's supposed to be. Everybody excluding Orlando Cabrera near the top of the leaderboard had an on-base percentage in the 500s or high 400s. Again, Cabrera's was .372, and it's not uncommon to see multiple players surpass that in a full season, and yet that was good enough for a 63-game on-base streak. For how poor of a hitter Cabrera was, it would be one thing if his stats during his streak were on par with everyone else on the leaderboard, but in comparison, it's low, drastically low. The thing is, it is technically possible for a player to have a low on-base percentage and such a long streak. In theory, a hitter can go 1 for 4 with a single in every single game he plays in. Given enough games, it would produce the longest on-base streak in baseball history despite a terrible on-base percentage of .250. This is somewhat to how Cabrera achieved his on-base streak. He didn't hit well, but managed at least one hit, walk, or hit by pitch in 63 consecutive games. In addition to his low on-base percentage, Cabrera also had a .791 OPS during that on-base streak. Compared to others near the top of the leaderboard, that OPS is also very low. Most players have an OPS at or higher than 1. The next longest on-base streak, where a player posted an OPS lower than Cabrera's, was a 46 on-base streak by Spike Shannon. Albeit, it occurred in the dead ball era, where his .774 OPS was outstanding. A 791 OPS in 2006 would have been around an average hitter. The Braves as a team batted exactly .791, and that equates to a 101 adjusted OPS. Reminder that 100 is average. A 791 OPS would have also ranked 95th out of 162 among qualified players that season. For those keeping track, that means more than half of the qualified players in baseball that season were better offensively than Cabrera during his on-base streak, yet Orlando is the one with the streak. The players with high on-base streaks were hitting machines during their streaks, posting insanely high hitting statistics. Cabrera, not so much. He had a low on-base percentage compared to everyone else, an even lower OPS, and was essentially an average hitter during his streak. You'd think a hitter who had a long on-base streak would have amazing hitting statistics during their streak. Not Cabrera. He was nothing more than average, who had outstanding luck. Out of Cabrera's 63 games he was on base, 33 of them he only reached base once. More than half of those games, he either had one hit, one walk, or one hit by pitch and nothing else. That explains why his stats were low, but it doesn't explain how incredibly lucky he was to keep the streak alive, day in and day out. But that's baseball. It's filled to the brim of dumb luck everywhere you look. Cabrera's on-base streak makes no sense from a logistical standpoint. It's underwhelming statistically, yet it's a feat that even the greatest hitters could not match. Anything can happen at any time to any player, no matter how low the odds are.